Have you ever gotten off a sales call and you're thinking, man, that should have closed? You did everything right on your part. You said the right words. They even said, hey, we're interested. Let's go ahead and get started. But for some reason, they just vanished and you got ghosted. And you may not even see it yet. That one call, it's a habit that recurs. And it's actually probably costing you between 5 to 6 figures every single month. My name is Sami, and over the past 4 years, I've built sales teams that have collectively generated over $40 million combined. And today I'm going to walk you through the exact things that we changed to get this to work. For context, this wasn't the leads. I didn't do anything on the lead side of things. It was with the leads that they already had and what we were able to do with the sales call itself to restructure it. And today I'm going to hand you this exact playbook. So if you're the founder of the business, you're a sales manager, or even if you're the closer yourself, this is going to be your new playbook from here on out. I'm going to break down every single part of the sales call itself so that you can make sure you never make a mistake again. The sad reality is that most sales reps don't know how to conduct themselves on a call. They start off overly friendly, overly excited, and you can tell that they have what we call commission breath. And they're sitting there on the edge of their seat trying to build this fake rapport. You know why you're there, your prospect knows why you're there, so don't treat them like a child and don't overly try to become their best friends. Try to get to the point as fast as possible. Now, at the same side of things, a lot of salespeople don't know how to control their own call, meaning they let the prospect themselves dive in and ask 21 questions. They get overwhelmed, they give out all the information, that prospect leaves, and they're never to be heard from again. The next 30 seconds are crucial for you to start implementing this on every single call that you have. And we want to start off with how to open the call. The average sales rep that I've spoken to, when I get on a call for something that I'm looking to buy, just comes on the call saying, hey, how's it going? What brought you here? What can we do for you? And they're coming from this frame where I've just lost interest. Like, I don't have that excitement on my side anymore. And if you're leading your call by, hey, you know what brings you here? And like, how's it going? Like, just very, very vague stuff, you're going to lose control. Instead, I want you to try this thing for your next sales call. The structure for this is what we like to call a NOT, A-N-O-T. Appreciate your time for being here. Naturally, you're going to have a bunch of questions for me. Of course, I'm going to have a bunch of questions for you. Typically, what I find works best is for me to get a better understanding as to where you're at right now, what's working, what's not working. And then by the end of this call, we can figure out whether it's a good fit for us to work together. Sound fair? By saying this, you're putting yourself at the beginning of the call, framing, hey, here's what it's going to look like. Because rather than them asking a bunch of questions directly at you, you can say, hey, I know you're going to have questions, but I'm also going to have questions. And that's pretty fair. This does 3 things. It's permission-based, it's frame control, and it's a pattern of leadership. So you stand out from the average person they've spoken to. The next important part is tonality and delivery. And I've seen sales reps double their close rate by just changing this one thing that I'm about to show you. So usually most people jump on calls and they know the idea that they need to ask questions. And so when they ask questions, they're like, hey, how does it look like? What does it work? What's going on? How so? What's the cause of action for this? And they're going to get to the point where their tonality is weak and it's not coming from a point of true curiosity. It's coming from a place of a checklist that they were told to ask. If it sounds scripted to you, it's going to sound scripted to them. So instead, to start off the call, the beginning of the call needs to be childlike curiosity. Now, if you don't have a kid, this is what typically happens when you sit down and chat to a kid. They come up to you and they ask you a question and they say, hey, why is the sun rotating around the earth? And you say, well, because, sphere and all that. I'm not exactly the best scientist to explain this to you, but the whole point of this is say, well, it goes up, it goes around this earth, and then it comes back around. And then they do something interesting and they say, how do you know it's going to come back around? And as an adult, you respond by saying, well, because I've seen it before. And then they say to you, well, how can you be so sure that tomorrow it's going to happen? Which, by the way, valid question. But their curiosity gets you to respond to them with patience because you're like, this is how a child's asking me a question. And you say, well, because it's done it over years and years and years, and all my life I've seen it, all my parents' life and grandparents' life, they've always seen it, so it's just a fact. But then they come back to you with, well, why? And so that childlike curiosity is something you need to implement on your calls from now on, because the ability to ask questions with a true form of curiosity is what's going to get people to answer them. And if you have a hard time doing this, it's because you're not having enough conversations in your day-to-day. Try to implement this in your personal life and then try to implement this in your sales life. The idea behind this is you really want to have a childlike curiosity to truly find out the answer for something. Now, there's 2 parts tonality-wise of the call. The beginning needs to be childlike curiosity so you can get to the bottom of the problem. But when you're pitching, your tonality has to completely change. Your tonality at the end of the call needs to be doctor-like certainty. The doctor you're looking to work with is going to say, hey, this is the problem. Here's how we're going to fix it if you want to walk again tomorrow. And because he delivers it with that level of certainty, you say, cool, let's do it. I trust you. So learn how to make sure that you transition from a complete childlike curiosity to certainty. Because if you mess this up, you will completely lose a sale. But when done correctly, you have a way higher chance of closing the deal because you did this. Now, if this next part is weak, no pitch is going to save you. This part is the discovery part of the call. The discovery part of the call is where you're asking questions to your prospect to get a better understanding as to what's the goal, what's not working, what have they tried, Why now? Do they want help? Those are the best 5 questions to ask on every single sales call. But it doesn't stop there. You don't just ask these 5 questions and hope for the best. Each question, you need to bring a shovel. What do I mean by that? You need to be able to dig to get to the bottom of the pain point, get to the bottom of the goal, get to the bottom of the urgency, get to the bottom of what they've tried, and do they want help? By far, the best book that I've ever read on sales is a book called Socratic Selling by Kevin Daly. This single book has helped me learn how to ask better questions and dig a mile deep versus digging like a couple inches deep and then going to the next question. When you get really good at digging and asking questions to get to the true root of something, you will completely stand out from every single person that they've spoken to before, and you will finally be able to get on their level where they're saying, hey, finally someone understands me. If you don't find their internal urgency, the deal's already dead. Now, the next part is something that truly grinds my gears. It's the transition. And most people mess this up completely because they go from curious child, and when they go to certain doctor and they're trying to give the pitch, they go, cool, I just asked you a bunch of questions. Cool. Here's our solution. That's not the way to do things. The way to do things is say, hey, here's the things that you said to me. Am I right on this? Hey, is this the actual part that you said? These are the words you said to me? And they say, yes, that's exactly it. And you want to frame it in your words. So saying, now the next part is where I've seen most calls that start off great completely crumble. And this part's the transition. If you do a bad transition, which most transitions are, is when people go, hey, here's the questions that I've asked you. Now here's my solution. There needs to be some sort of level bridge to say, hey, it sounds like this is the things that you said you're struggling with, and this is the reason why you want to get started. Am I on the right track here? So you start off with a summary, and then they go, wow, that's exactly right. How did you know? Well, it's because I take notes. By the way, if you're on a sales call, you should be taking notes along the way. Whether you're writing it down pen and paper, or when you're typing on your keyboard with the microphone muted, you really need to be taking notes so that you can say things that they said back to them in their own words. Now, once we've done the recap, we need to do a mic drop moment. The mic drop moment is probably the most important part of the sales call, and it's most impressive. It's when we say, hey, it's not this thing that you're thinking is the problem. It's when we say, hey, can I be honest with you for a second? And they say, sure. And you say, it's not this thing that you think is the problem, it's this complete other thing. Basically, it's like a shock factor where we can say, hey, can I be brutally honest? I'm going to hold you accountable by calling you out on something. Most salespeople are so scared they would never ever say that live. But guess what? That person is there to be held accountable. So by you calling them out, they actually appreciate it and they go, wow, you're right. How do I fix it? Now, part 3 of this is when you said, hey, you remember the certainty doctor that we're talking about? Here's how we're going to deliver this. By doing this, you say, look, based on where you're at, I definitely know we can help you out. Not maybe think I can help you out. I definitely know we can help you out. Happy to walk you through what that looks like if it's something that you're open to. I like this line a lot because it's permission based. It's saying, hey, look, I 100% know how to fix your leg. It's broken. I can fix it for you if you want me to. What this is great at doing is getting them to say, hey, yes, please fix my problem for me. Now comes the part with the pitch. And this is a very, very important step. Most reps turn into feature machines when it comes to this part of the call. They go, hey, here's a bunch of cool features, and they overwhelm the person with a ton of information. Instead, this needs to be broken down into bite-sized chunks. This is where the skilled closers become beasts and the weak ones fizzle out. This is where you say, hey, remember when you said you wanted this thing? Here's how we can help you by this specific part of what we do. You're basically showing them the customized solution to the customized thing that they said. And if you do this in bite-sized information, where your pitch can be a minute on part 1, 2 minutes on part 2, and maybe 2 minutes on part 3, they feel like they've struck gold. They're like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. A bonus part is every time you show them the thing that they need, you ask them, does this make sense? How do you feel about this so far? Make sure you do a double tie down so they can stay excited. Next comes the part where we want to double check to see where they're at, how they feel about all this. This is typically called the temperature check to see where they're at. Now, if you're experienced in sales and you're speaking to someone who's also experienced in sales, if you say, hey, how does it feel? Scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a terrible fit, 10 being an amazing fit. They've heard this line before. So you just need to be a little bit more calm down and just say, hey, how does it sound? Do you feel like this is going to be able to help you out? And they say yes. And then you can be like, cool. Well, what about this specifically do you think is going to be the biggest game changer for you? Because I'm excited to kind of learn like what made you think that. So if you're speaking to an experienced buyer, you saying, hey, scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? May not be the thing that's going to get them excited because they've heard that before. Instead, you want to say, hey, how do you feel about all this? Just curious. And they tell you how they feel. And you say, great. Now, just on everything that we talked about, what do you feel like is going to be the biggest game changer for you in your company or for you in your life or whatever it is you're trying to sell them? Them repeating to you the benefit that they find the best will also show you how excited they really are versus if they feel like, yeah, feature number 1 sounds great. But instead, if they say, hey, feature number 2 is exactly what we've been missing and I've been wanting this for a very long time, now you can tell this person's excited. Next, we go to the part where we pitch the price. Now, a lot of people say, hey, pitch the price, then shut up and never speak again. And while it's important to stay quiet for a little bit, it's also important more so so that you let them process and think about what you just said. If you're going to pitch someone a price, you need to say, hey, to solve this problem in this time, it's going to be this much money. That's when you sit back. Ideally, you just want to get either the sound of their voice and see how they respond, or the image on their face to see if they're bought in, if they flinched, how they feel about that price point, and also let them process. Now, if you did everything right, they're going to be excited. They're like, hey, let's get started today. But guess what? Some people still need some more time. This is typically where most salespeople panic and say, cool, well, what if we did a payment plan? What if we did it over 12 months? Relax, breathe, it's okay. Let them say what they have to say. And if there is an objection, the only words that should come out of your mouth needs to be all good, no worries. And if they say, for example, hey, the price is a little bit high, you can say all good, no worries, finances aside, how do you feel about all this? So it sounds like finances aside, you're 100% in, correct? They're gonna say yes. Then you say, cool, well, if there was a way for us to make this work for you financially, would you still be 100% in? This comes back where you bring up a little bit more of your curiosity again. And then they're gonna say yes. Then you can sit down and talk about how to move forward. But don't fall to payment plans just because there's a little bit of nerves there. And by the way, just a bonus tip, if someone says that they're nervous, like, hey, I wanna work with you guys, but it's just a little, I don't know, and they start feeling that, you can even stop them and say, hey, is it nerves? And they say yes. Be like, great. I'm actually glad that you're nervous. And they're gonna be like, what? Do you want to know why? Because every great decision happened was someone is a little bit nervous at first, and I don't want to take that away from you. So you should know that the nerves are there for a reason. They're there to kind of show you that this is going to be a big step. But you and I both know that success lies on the end of pushing through the nerves. So the nerves are there for a reason. It's a good thing that you're feeling them, but we need to be able to push through so we can finally get to the results that you're looking for. Now, an extra step is once someone says, hey, I'm interested, I'm excited to get started, and they're ready to pay, be like, great, looking forward to having you on board. Real quick, for what we just talked about, what is the thing that you're most excited about? Now, when someone says, hey, here's my credit card, let's get started, you also want to be able to say, awesome, really excited to work with you. Real quick, from everything we talked about, what's the thing that you're excited for? Or another variation of this is to say, great, just to understand, for what we're processing your payment for, what are you hoping we're going to be able to solve? And you want them to reset it back to you. Once payment is in, you don't just say, cool, bye, take care. This is where you can start building rapport. This is where you can stick around for the next 5 minutes so you can actually build a good connection. Most salespeople think the rapport building needs to be the first 5 minutes of the call. I think it's better done at the end of the 5 minutes of the call because business is done. How we can chat. If you've done all these parts correctly, you're going to have better sales calls from here on out. If you found this video useful, go ahead, like it, give it a comment down below, drop us a follow, and I'll see you in the next one.